Sign up for the IzAw seminar? Hell yeah. Okay, guys, so the 28th of August, I'm going to be having a seminar for about an hour and a half where I talk about neutral, pressure, anti-air, game plan, how you can basically just plate cleaner, what you should look out for at burst ranges and so on. And I'm going to try to break down neutral as much as possible. Going to provide a bunch of documents for you guys. It's going to be a recording of the VOD as well, but it's going to be streamed on my Discord. So if you really want to watch, if you want to be a part of it, it's $20, which is a million times cheaper. Million times cheaper than a normal session, because a normal session is what, $80 at this point. And you would basically get the same amount of information, just that it's 28th of August on my stream Discord. It's going to be live at 1 p.m. EST. If you can show up, there's still going to be a recording I can send to you. So if you want the VOD, you can still sign up for it. It's really up to you. And there's going to be frequently time for Trix to do the same, because Trix is also holding a seminar. When is
Mine's August 24th, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm basically going to be going over conditioning and reading habits. I'm going to be doing a lot of very similar things to what IzAw had said as far as providing documents and some reaction type drills in real time that I'm going to be providing as far as doing like split-second reaction type drills and trying to identify pictures and frame data. Kind of use your subconscious mind so you can identify patterns, identify moves as they come out, because we have 60 frames to play with in every single second, so you should be able to optimize that as much as you possibly can. And whether or not you can react to it online, this is not for an online playstyle. It's the ability to see, okay, if someone's using rising nair versus landing nair, if you can identify it, even if you don't catch it in the first interaction, you know the answers for next time. So you have some backstory behind the moves, so you can develop a playstyle around that on reaction, and also like covering their patterns as it's coming out in their playstyle.
The top level game plan or structure and how you play is a lot simpler and cleaner than people think. It's just about breaking it down and being aware of it.
I think the biggest part of that for me is if you don't know what a move is meant for, then people will just let you do it over and over again, right? So for example, if you don't know why someone, let's say for example, Fox Nair, if you don't know why someone is trying to do landing Fox Nair, which seems pretty simple for some people, but if you genuinely don't know, it's like, well, I don't know why he's doing this, and people say, well, it's a combo starter. It's like, okay, well,
yeah, that's very,
what does that mean?
Like that's like 1 out of 10 realities of what Nair is for.
You need to know every other or most other reasons to say, okay, well, what frame does it come out on? How safe is it on shield? When does it start to knock down? When is it a combo starter? Is it good against floaties versus fast followers, and at what percents? When does it start to kill confirm? Is it used for tech chasing? Is it used for ledge trapping? Can you use this for like soft nair off stage? So if someone's doing these things to you, you should know, based on what they're doing, do you have any counterplay that you've studied in the past, or like you've done your homework off the sticks, essentially, to say, okay, someone's doing landing nair into up tilt, down tilt, dash attack, whatever they're doing, or into jab. How do I deal with this as a whole and get them to replicate this pattern so I can actually capitalize on it, versus saying, well, they're doing landing nair and I don't know what this means, I can't grab it, therefore I lose. There's tons of information that just has to be stacked over time, so you do have your answers when you're going into a fight, at least against a character like Fox, and you want to try and do this as much as you can against every single character, or as many characters that make sense to fight in your region.
I was thinking, I'm gonna join your seminar, and if you want, you can join mine as well,
for
just
sure,
for the sake of, you know, fun. Why not? Because I feel like we both can probably learn from each other something.
Absolutely.
The biggest thing that I feel is helping people in terms of coaching is talking about burst range and what you can do from there. People seem to not really understand burst range at its full picture. They kind of just see it as it's where I can start hitting you and that's it. But there's a lot more to it. And there's so much like movement that can be done at burst range to bait you out, and so much reading over time, and so much small stuff that people don't know. Like, people don't understand, if you shield right now, for example, people don't know that if I stand here and dash down tilt from burst range, it literally auto spaces. Like, you don't have to get into range to space down tilt already. Being here and then spacing is a bad idea. Like, you will just get hit.
Yeah.
So you want to be here before you start spacing your down tilt, because it's just going to be auto spaced. So there's a lot of things you can do from burst range that people don't realize. Like, if you shield again and I jump in and I do fair, it's auto spaced as well. I didn't need to pull back. I didn't really need to do anything. I just need to do it. So people are not understanding that spacing is really about not just how you land and space your drifts, but the position you jump from. And there's a lot of people who jump from here and try to space, or jump from here and try to space. And there's some people that try to like find openers from here, or spend a lot of time being here instead of spend a lot of time being here and dashing out whenever they feel like the opponent might go for a play. As long as I can break it down more simply in the seminar, which is the whole point of it, but as long as you get the full picture of the burst range things become a million times easier in what you should do to stay consistent. Because a lot of times people are just like this into this, and then they're just trying to hit. They just want the hit. They don't understand how valuable shield pressure and positioning really is. Because the main openers in Smash so far seems to be whiff punishes, anti-airs, shield pressure that just ends up hitting, and that's pretty much it. Like, those are your main openers. Eventually you start reading shield. Dash grabbing in neutral is awful. You want to save it for advantage state or whenever you have a read, for example. There's a lot of like rules to follow to stay consistent, because I know there's a lot of players that like, I play neutral and I do this and I jump with Ike and I space and I jump and I space, and they just kind of wait and they want to dash grab me, but I'm jumping, right? And it's just like, it's not going to work. So at that point, people don't really know the solution, and they really don't know how to see that this is what the Ike is doing once I step into range. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about. But it's just that it's easy to simplify if you break it down from step 1 to 100. Instead of like, let's start with like explaining it vaguely here and there. If you break it down and you build the blocks, eventually it becomes very easy to just see, okay, I see how the core of the game is played now.
Yeah, I was going to say another big part of the burst range as well too is recognizing that having your physical character's presence within that range will get your opponent to respond in different ways.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, that's exactly it, right? Like, you can be at burst range and you can go for a safe pressure, B, a call out play, like something speed based, or I can go for move away, because you might go for one of the A or B, and if you pushed a button, I can punish you. If you jumped, I can try to punish the jump, or I can kind of like catch the landing, or I can run up and shield and parry you and so on. So the most important part is that people don't understand that you can dash away and whiff punish really easily. Bait and punish is like the most vague term out there.
Oh, yeah.
People say bait and punish, but they don't really understand. There's a bait and punish in pressure game. There's a bait and punish in the anti-air game. And there's a bait and punish in neutral. The neutral one is really, really, really simple. It's literally about whiff punishing and anti-airing on reaction, right? Like, you're playing on a reaction, basically. You're not trying to pressure. You're not trying to call out. You're just baiting an option that you can react to. That's essentially what it is. And so it means from this position, you're trying to whiff punish. And from this position, you're trying to dash as well, so you can whiff punish too. Because the opponent might press something. You're in range. You're at burst range. They will press a button. At some point, they will press a button. And if they don't, you can pressure. And once you pressure, let's say you shield it. Once you pressure and you dash away, you're back into the spot. And if he's trying to challenge you, you dash away again, you get the whiff punish. So that's basically as simple as that. You're just looking to whiff punish and anti-air, because people will jump for approaches as well, and so you can just kind of anti-air and move away, catch landings, and so on. So baiting and punishing is a lot more simple if you show it and explain it, but people seem to not really understand what bait and punish is because it's so vaguely thrown around.
I think another big part of that too, and this kind of goes back to tying it with newer players, is in a lot of cases when you're trying to bait a newer player who doesn't recognize the dangers of falling for a bait, a lot of times they'll just go ahead and do certain things, or sometimes the bait itself will just straight up not work. So you are pressuring someone's shield, or you are going into their burst range, and they aren't, in quotations, falling for it. And as a player that's trying to learn those new things, they believe it doesn't work. That's, at least for me, I will say, I've even heard top players say it's easier to fight other high-level or top-level players because you can actually condition them in a lot of cases as well.
And if it is, you're probably lacking in some type of awareness.
I think, yeah, and I think the biggest asterisk beside that example is if it's you doing that to a newer player, then you also trust your strategy, right? I think what I was saying is, like, if you're a newer player trying to implement these strategies and you don't trust it, let's just say if I have my favorite combo starter in the world is side B, I can kind of blind myself and say every time it doesn't work, it's because I might have done it at the wrong time, versus saying the move doesn't work. But if I ever switch to like down air, or if I ever switch to like falling up air, if it ever doesn't work, I'll blame the move. And I don't mean me personally, just saying hypothetically speaking. Yeah. So that's more so what I was getting at. It's more of the belief system of it. If you know how bait and punish works, like you personally or anyone that's a higher level player, of course it's going to work against a lower level player. But I'm more so speaking to those players that are on the cusp of going from like low to mid, or like mid to maybe high, or like mid high level play, and they're trying to implement these things and they're just not trusting themselves, because if it doesn't work, then they just revert to what they know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, trusting yourself has a part to do is partially about, do you have the awareness of what to do? Like, do you have the full picture of what pressure is? Like, yeah, you spaced against the shield, then what?
Exactly.
Right? Usually there's like 4 options. You space against the shield, and either you pick landing into block, landing into a dash, which is the most consistent 2 options. They're safe, they're defensive, they're non-committal, they allow you to react. And then you have landing into an attack and landing into a jump, which are more aggressive and a more adaptation options. Like, you adapt. You don't really do this as a starter. You always dash or you always shield to begin with, and then when you get info, you start going for it. And by structuring the game like this, eventually you'll start, it begins with you. You start working on it. You start kind of gaining the awareness, the muscle memory, the typical way of playing, and then once you got it, you got it. It's like riding a bike. You're not going to lose it. And at that point, it's no longer about you. It's about the opponent purely, because this game is always about the opponent. If you're ever kind of playing the game and you're having thoughts of, I want, or I need to, or I should, then you're not playing the game. You're trying to get better, but you're not really playing the game. You always need to have thoughts that starts with, he's looking for, he wants to, he needs to, etc. And then you react to it. Meanwhile, your natural instincts should be what you've already learned through how you pressure, how you anti-air, how you play neutral, and so on. So there's like a ladder of how to kind of get better, but that ladder is really hard, if not impossible, to know or see if you're not, I don't know, super gifted in naturally knowing how to learn. Like, it's really hard to figure out how to get better in this game, which, but yeah, this is like the most typical things. Like, when I explain this to even high level or top level players, they gain a lot more awareness. Like, okay, I didn't know I was always going for like land into attack, and you're jumping or you're shielding twice and you're hitting me out of shield, and I should kind of prioritize block, and I should prioritize dash, and I should prioritize staying at burst range, and how do I get into mid range, and how do I get into close range, and what's the rock paper scissor there, and so on. And like, when you break it down and you kind of like let the opponent or let the student kind of see it all, full picture, eventually things become a lot more consistent, because they're aware of how they play, and now they can let go, and they're only trying to focus on how the opponent plays, the way they pressure, where they jump, what they do at burst range, and then it's all like, okay, what do they do at the corner? Does he jump and kind of like try to get around me with full hops? Is he kind of just waiting? Is he rolling in? What's he doing? What's he doing at the ledge? And then how is he landing? Like, there's a whole bunch of things to look out for, but always starts with those steps, basically. It's interesting. I didn't teach like this a year ago, 2 years ago. It was a whole different method, but now I feel like I have, because I have done so much of this, I feel like I've learned how to structure it, and it helps both me and the students so much. It's crazy.
I think honestly that's one of the biggest things that's helped me become even remotely successful in content creation and coaching, is doing the mentality side of Smash, because that's something that you can break down a million different ways for a million different people, as far as the different walks of life or their different skills, or how they've even developed themselves as a human, whether it's their sports they play or music or whatever their examples are that resonate with them. And if you can have those types of examples be part of your place, or not part of your playstyle, part of your approach to teaching as well, like, at least for me, that's how I can break down a lot of things for people, where it just clicks. Sure. And it really does boil down, not always like the examples themselves, but the more knowledgeable you are in the game, you can start to problem solve. You become a critical thinker while playing, versus saying this is all I've got and hoping for the best. That's kind of like going back to the conditioning mastery seminar that I'm going to be doing. That's what I want to have people try to figure out, or have them understand, with regards to seeing a move and having it have a meaning behind it, versus saying nair is nair or down tilt is down tilt. Right. And it's funny because a lot of people say, well, I just do, like, let's say go run up tilt. It's like, well, why do you up tilt? It's like, because the combo starter, and that's basically it. Yeah,
it's more like, okay, you called out their jump. That makes sense. You want a shield poke. That makes sense.
Some people don't even get that far. They don't even get that far, right?
It takes time for sure. And then when you say it, the problem is that sometimes they fixate on up tilt as the anti-air. They're not really trying to anti-air with dash, short hop up air, or quick back airs, or quick nair, or whatever it is. Like, they're just stuck on, I play with these things and I do not. It makes it, they make it about themselves. I want the up tilt to hit instead of this guy is jumping from far away, I should just run up and get the short up air, or I should wait for the side B timing, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's hard to explain it. It's hard to give this feedback, because then they will kind of stick with this feedback and work on it a lot. But when you, like I said, when you break it down in blocks and step by step, and you see the full picture, the game becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, both of us, we're trying to get our students to become critical thinkers. That's what it really boils down to. If you know why you're doing what you're doing, the game just makes so much more sense. Execution will come with time, but if you're just aimlessly doing stuff, and sometimes you win or sometimes you lose, you could do that for the rest of time, and you'll hit the ceiling and you'll never get better.
Yeah, exactly. Not seeing double jumps and me telling you do this and do that, and then you're kind of not seeing the other openers doesn't make you better. But me giving you the full picture slowly and you understanding the full picture, eventually you will get better at Smash and all characters, and you'll learn. You'll take each loss and you're gonna learn, instead of like, what did I do wrong? When in reality, instead of saying what did I do wrong, you should kind of say, what did he do that I didn't outplay? Like, it's about them. And it's really hard to kind of ask that question if you don't have that full picture on each subject of the game.
A lot of the times too, it's almost like just a gaming mentality as well, as it's very hard for a lot of players to credit the opponent for being good.
Yeah.
Which sounds funny, where it's like, instead of saying, okay, this person did something good, it's always, I did something bad. There's no way this person can be...
Yeah. That's exactly what I told Yes. I was like, the best way you can get better from here, because he was already really good, but he was always like autopiloting at some point, or freaking out at some point, or like thinking about himself at some point. And I was like, you have to compliment everything that the opponent is doing that is good. Because if you compliment something good, you're using the positive side of it to just go, okay, that was a good jump, or whatever. Next time you react to it, and because it's just so quick, okay, that was good, that's it. Like, you don't keep complimenting it, you don't keep lingering on that thought. It's just, that was good, you paid attention to it, you were present, and you try to adapt. If you're being negative, like, oh, that was bullshit, my dash attack missed, then you're not really aware of like what happened and how to adapt. Plus, it takes time, because negative thoughts linger. Like, no matter what, they will linger. They sit there and they will keep you salty, and it takes time. Like, you basically become slow. Having a mentality where you always compliment something good is really healthy for adaptation and for staying focused. Even like for me, whenever I'm playing the game, I'm consistently starting with, that was good spacing. Like, that's good spacing, that's good dash, that's good spacing, that good dash. And if something is bad, I just naturally punish it, right? Like, I see it if it's bad. If something is good, I start adapting to it later on in the game, at least. Or immediately, if I know something immediately, obviously, you know. But if I'm kind of just, okay, I want my down arrow, my up tilt to hit, then I'm not paying attention. I'm not playing the game.
Yeah, that's where you start threading the needle and hoping for the best.
Exactly.
You think they're just going to dash in and basically let it happen.
And you lose, and you're not really sure what happened. Or you're kind of like, you're telling yourself this needs to be better, but in reality it was like 5 other things. There's a lot that can be said. Like, there's I have 7 years of experience with coaching, but honestly this past 2 years have been the most teaching for me in terms of how I can break things down and really help students at their best. Because, you know, sometimes you don't want to give vague information, too much information, break things down in unorganized ways and make them confused and so on. Like, it's like its own meta. Coaching at this point is its own meta.
That's one of those things too, is like, if you, as a content creator, you also get to see and listen to your own advice back. And at least for me, with regards to just becoming a better and better coach as well, I'll go back through my old VODs and I'll see, or I'll listen to things that I say. It's like, okay, what I said, it made sense, but it only really made sense to me. I could have worded it better so it clicked quicker.
Yeah.
That's just another way to even coach yourself. You get to be a student to yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, if you want to sign up for a seminar where I go through pressure, anti-air, neutral, game plan, basically how to stay consistent in the most important parts of Smash, you can sign up by doing !news, !seminar, doesn't matter. It's $20 instead of a $50, $80 session, and it's going to be worth it. It's going to be one of the many seminars to come.